Hey everybody, it's Mr. Stefano here, and I'm going to have a simple jazz lesson for you to work on some improvisational skills for the song Blue Monk. It's a pretty simple song. It's a blues, which it only has a few chords in it, which is really convenient when you're improvising over something like this. So let's go over a few different. Trying to get this centered here. There we go. Let's go over a few. Techniques that we can do to start improvising, especially if you've never done it before. But even if you have, this is something that I go back to when I'm learning the changes for a new song. It's really important that when you're improvising, you understand what notes work well with the chords. And you could do that through scales, but this is a different technique I'm going to show you using the actual chord tones. Scales work well, but I don't feel like they help me learn the changes. They don't help me learn the changes. They're convenient to give me some stuff to play over top of a set of changes, but I don't feel like I'm playing with the chord changes as they happen. So in this case, I'm going to use actual just chord tones from the song. So I'm going to talk in concert pitch, but for those of you that have transposing instruments like me, you're going to want to look at the music that's for your instrument specifically, and then you have to kind of use your brain here to transpose what I'm saying. So I'm going to use concert pitch just so that we're all, I'll keep saying concert as I say it, okay? So we're in the key of concert B flat major, which for my B flat instruments is really nice and easy. It's in the key of C. So first, I'm going to have to know just what the chord is for each, or the root note for each chord, which is just what it's called. So if it's B flat 7, it's B flat. If it's E flat 7, then it's E flat. So whatever that root note is, and be able to play along with just those notes. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to play through it one time through. You're going to hear me just play on that note on each chord. I'll just hold it out like a whole note. Doesn't mean you can play a quarter note to half notes, whatever you want. But I'm going to play that out. There's only one time in this song that you need to do two chords over one measure, or over 1/4 beat. Now again, that's the last one, and that's it. The rest of them, it's just one chord per measure, or multiple measures actually, which is convenient. So here's me playing through it with just the, I'm going to put the play along that's provided from Mr. Gonsi, and here's me playing along with just that. And you can see that I just played the root of each of those chords. Now, you could look at the music as you're doing this, and that's great to start with. I try and get away from that as soon as possible, but I know at your age it might be difficult to do, but give it a shot. So if you think you can memorize that, walk away from it and just do it. And you can do it on your own with the play along, whatever, but be able to do that, right? And memorizing it is where you start learning the changes. Now, my next step would be to take that same exercise I just did, just that root of the chord, and now improvise already just using those notes, right? So this is kind of like a limitation exercise where we're going to limit what we can use. And all I'm going to want you to use is just the root of that chord, okay? So I'm going to go through it again, and now I'm going to play just those roots again, but instead of playing like just throughout the whole measure, I'm going to improvise a rhythm. And I think you're going to find that it's going to sound more sophisticated than you might think it would. Than just playing the root. It doesn't sound, if you talk to a jazz person, they'd say, oh, I got to play these extensions and all these things. But honestly, you should be able to hear the changes in your playing. So this is one way to do that. So I'm going to play it again, just using the root of the chords again with improvisation. Go through it a few times doing just that, right? Already doesn't sound that bad. If I was listening to somebody play that as opposed to somebody just trying to put all these crazy notes in there that don't know the changes, I would think that sounds more hip, right? So this is your first way to kind of start improvising by using just the chord to just the base of the chord. Next, we're going to get into adding in the rest of the chord tones in there. So that was the root. We're going to add the third and eventually the fifth and then even the seventh. Then you could go on extensions from there if you really have time and you want to put it into the learning a song. Okay, for the next part of learning chord changes, we've done the root of each chord, and hopefully you've actually played through it and tried to memorize it best you can. If you can't, that's okay. Use the music, but that all will help. And I think you'd be surprised how quickly you actually would memorize it just doing it a few times. Next, we're going to have to add some more notes. Just doing the root, as much as I said that sounds hipper than playing all this crazy stuff, it doesn't sound that sophisticated, right? It's pretty simple, and that's fine. So now we can make it. Now we start adding a little bit of time, kind of building on top of it. So next would be to add the third scale degree, or the third in the chord, right? So we played the root, and then the next interval up will be the third of the chord. And this is where you have to start learning what the chords are, and I'll provide this as I play, and I'll add that in there. So for the only a few 4 chords in the whole song, we have concert B flat, which is B flat, and then the D would be the third above it. We have concert E flat, which would be E flat, and then a G above that, all concert. Then that weird E diminished chord that you see in there, which actually will also have a G above it, which is easy, so it's E and G. And then the only other chord is that concert F, which is F and then an A above that. So I'm going to go through and play the changes again. I'm going to do the root and just the third of each chord, and I'm going to play it kind of like root, third, every time I'm doing half notes, since it's 2 notes per measure for the most part. So for the last one, okay? Let's try that. The only time I ever had to change the rhythm was that last measure, like I said. But even if that was something you couldn't quite get just yet, that's okay. Now, I played those through in time. Now I'm going to do, just like I did with the roots, I'm going to do the first and the third of every chord, but I'm going to improvise using just those notes. Okay? And this is where memorization will really start to kick in as you're playing. You have to know which notes you can use. You can write them out for each chord if that makes it easier. For you, I try personally, because I really try to memorize the chords, I try to get away from looking at anything and just using my ear and just kind of getting it in my fingers. But you know, I'm a little bit more advanced. So let's try this again, and this time I'm going to improvise using the first and the third of each chord. I'm going on now, but I'm going through a second time through the chorus. But you can see even just those 2 notes from each chord sound, you hear the change. If I took away this accompaniment and I just played that, you would be able to hear the chord changes as they go by. Obviously, you're getting the idea here. Now that we did the third, and then we had the fifth and the seventh, and we can keep going on and on and on. But I think this is a good place to start. First, at least the third, and then we could do, I can make some more videos where I do at the fifth and the seventh as well.